If somebody has had a serious head injury, it's really important to think and understand what might have happened. What happens with a head injury is it's not just that initial impact that happens. That will force the head back, can cause a spinal injury, but it can also cause the brain to rattle around inside the skull. So that is causing this soft, mushy brain tissue to reverberate within the skull. If it is doing that, it can tear blood vessels and cause additional swelling as it does that. So it may be the impacts this side, but it may be some of the damage as it bounces backwards and forwards can occur on this side. So really important that you are thinking of the whole person and what might have happened. Now, the issue with the swelling, all injuries swell, so swelling itself is not a problem. However, if you're swelling and you're within a box, which is what your skull is, and you've got soft tissue within the box, when the brain swells, it will push against other brain tissue and it will push against the spinal cord, and that's called compression, which is when it squeezes and further damages the brain tissue. So it's really important that you look out for those sort of signs. So if anybody has had a head injury and they're clutching their head or they are behaving strangely, they may have blurred vision, their pupils might be odd, unequal, dilated, looking different. They could have trouble remembering things. They might vomit repeatedly. Any of those sort of things are red flag signs that something could be seriously wrong. Again, we said with a head injury, think spinal injury. It's really important to be aware that they could have damaged their spine. So if they've got neck pain or numbness anywhere or tingling anywhere, that should make you worry and think of a potential spinal injury. The important thing about a spinal injury is that they shouldn't twist. If you suspect a spinal injury and the person is unconscious, the airway always takes priority. So please still open the airway and support them in that way. And please also be ready to give CPR if somebody is unconscious and not breathing. The airway takes priority. So the important thing with a spinal cord injury is understanding that it's the cord that you're trying to prevent damage to. Bony damage we can fix. So if there is a vulnerability there because there has been damage to the spine itself, the bones, then it's important to ensure that the spinal cord is not twisted, which can cause extra damage. If the spinal cord is twisted or damaged, it will mean that the messages from your brain to the rest of your body will not go through. So the higher up the damage occurs, the more of your body will be affected. And we're really good at fixing things in medicine and in surgery. However, we struggle with the spinal cord. So once the spinal cord is seriously damaged, quite often that leads to life-changing injuries and complete loss of function below that damage. So that's what you're trying to avoid. So key thing with head injuries, if they are showing any signs that there is something not right, you will be removing them from the pitch if they're playing sport at the time and not putting them back on. They will be properly assessed by a health professional. If you are any signs of concussion, and they're pretty minor signs that you're looking out for, you're trying to reduce the risk of repeated injury. Repeated injury can lead to serious brain damage and long-term implications of that. So they would be assessed by a health professional, and they wouldn't return to their studies or to work or to sport until they have been through a proper graduated return to play assessment period that takes them through various stages and monitors their recovery at every step of the way. So really important that they are assessed all the way through to make sure that they are making a steady recovery. And if they go backwards at any point, they have to go back to that next stage. With a potential spinal injury, you are getting them assessed by an appropriately trained health professional. You are calling the emergency services if necessary, and you are making sure that they are properly x-rayed and assessed to ensure that there is not a risk of serious spinal injury as well. So you are being cautious every step of the way. So take head and spinal injuries very seriously.